Welcome back to Almost Functional, guys. We're here with the Gray Knight Index, which just got released today. I got one of my good friends from Florida, Dave Ozawa. Uh, been playing Gray Knights forever. One of the best Gray Knight players in the world, I believe. What's up, Dave?
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
How you doing? I'm Dave Ozawa. When I started with Eldar, loved Eldar. Didn't like how toughness three worked in the game, and started playing a couple of different armies. I was trying Marines. I was trying some other armies, and then I asked myself, what I really like about the game. And I really like the psychic phase and interactions with psychic powers. And then I liked Grey Knights. I started playing Grey Knights, and I liked that how they could do anything. They could do close combat well. They had guns and they shot well, and then they had the maneuverability with the Gave Infinity and different things that they could do with that, and they had good combat. Like all the units had combat, so like pretty much anything I needed them to do, they could do at the expense of costing some more points. But very flexible army, and I've been playing them pretty much ever since. I've
Yes, you.
won best Grey Knights before, and I usually place high at all events. I usually place pretty high.
Yep. And you and I have been battling for years.
And Matt and I have been like duking it out, whether it's Grey Knights versus Space Wolves or Knights versus his bow ties. Matt and I've had a lot of games together.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's roll over here into these Gray Knight rules. So the start off with the army rule is teleport to Salt, which most of us will be playing Strike Force. So it gives the option of up to 3 units. You can was it? You can pick them up in the once you make your selection, move them from your battlefield and reinforcement
Yeah,
steps of your next movement phase. So when do you pick them up? Does it say at the end of your opponent's turn?
yeah.
All
At
right,
the end of your opponent's
there it
turn,
is.
so it's kind of like it's kind of like a real good, um, really good in a game. If you can reposition units quickly, it's always been good in pretty much any edition. And as long as they're not in engagement range, but basically as long as they're not in combat, you can move around, especially late game. Late game, when you run low on models, units are running low, being able to reposition and grab objectives away from people and kind of like make those key strikes at the end, because usually you start off the game with your whole army, but then at the end, you might need to be is really good. And being able to do that with 3 units is really, really good. You can kind of like always maximize the units as you have on the board at all times, as long as you're able to keep repositioning them. You can get like where you want them to be when you need them to be there. And being able to do that with 3 units, like I remember the last edition with Game Infinity and Teleport Shrine, being able to do that with 2 units was really good. And when I was able to do that with 3 units, turn two and turn three, when I would Teleport Shrine, Game Infinity, and Deep Strike again from reserve, it would be like a very strong strike on one side of the board, and it would change games often. So very good ability.
And now if you take tactical objective they're drawing, what you're getting, so nice. Then
Um, can't hear you very well, Matt. Can you hear me?
yeah, there we go. You hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right. Yeah, I
So
was
yeah,
just
I think you were saying something about the objectives. Yeah,
yeah,
with the secondaries being able to move them around
yeah. You
when it
could
comes to the secondary.
yeah, say if you're doing tactical, gives you ability to jump around for the drawn ones, and it also gives you the for if you take the fixed, like behind enemy lines and engage on all fronts, I believe, are two of the fixed ones you can take. Like you could be doing that with those units and getting having the same unit score both every turn.
Yep, being able to do that and pick up those secondaries, always a good thing.
Absolutely.
Being able to move around and like being able to move around is, like I said, key to the game. And Army seems like it's kind of moved into maneuverability from what the leaks and what the previews have shown. So
Yeah, and I think that's going to be really big in this edition.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Looks like teleport shunt is an Army ability for strike force detachment rolls. That's really good as well. If you advance, you auto advance 6, and you gain the fly characteristic. So if we have units that can advance in charge, it's going to be really, really big.
Yeah.
And then having the ability to just auto roll in advance of a 6 when you need it is also big. Like you need to get on an objective in game. It's just a good ability to have it. I know it doesn't sound super impressive sometimes, but just knowing that you don't have to roll that dice, you can just auto get that 6 is always it's always a good option for you to have in your back pocket when you want to move around the board some more.
Oh yeah, especially there's a lot of times you're trying to get that last objective, that last secondary on like all right, I need a 5, oh, and I'm gonna spend the reroll. The game's on this advance, and you just auto have the 6. It's nice. And other than the vehicles, pretty much everything has deep strike, right? So all your infantry just gets to do this.
Yeah, so most things in the last edition had deep strike. In addition, before that, some of the units didn't have deep strike, so they've moved. They've given it and taken. So I'm curious to see if they're so liberal with it. Where like the last edition, almost everything could deep strike. The previous edition, a lot of things couldn't have deep strike, like purifiers. And the 2 editions ago, purifiers couldn't deep strike, but I believe they showed that they can now. So we'll see. We'll see if everything they kept with the deep strike and everybody can do deep strike now, just like in the last edition, except for non psychic units and vehicles. Those couldn't deep strike.
All right, cool. And then now they're giving us some stratagems. Should be 6 here. Pretty much everybody gets 6 in their detachment. So the first one you get is Radiant Strike. It's 2 CP, which is expensive, but it's 1 Grey Knight Psyker unit from your army.
Yeah.
Until the end of the phase, melee weapons equipped by that unit have the Psychic ability and Devastating Wounds. So you can just be handing out mortals on critical hit wounds.
Handing out mortals is always a good thing. 2 command points is pretty heavy, like you said. I know they released the Grey Knight. They previewed the Grey Knight Grandmaster, and he can turn stratagems into 1 command points. This is probably where he'd want to spend that. For 1 command point in combat when you want to take down a big unit, but 2 command points is pretty steep. If you got like a big 10-man squad, then you might want to do it. But there's always like a cost benefit. Like there's like do I do this? Like do I spend these 2 command points, or do I save them? And in the past editions, Grey Knights have always been a heavy command point army, so 2 command points is kind of steep.
But if you're a little frugal in the first turn or two, turn 3, if you push something in, you should hopefully have enough command points to really do this without hurting yourself. But it limits on what you can do first turn if you're trying to save up.
Yeah, a lot of people tend to try to blow through command points. I've been good myself in a couple turns. Really end game, like in the end of the game, if one person has command points and the other person doesn't, it's such a big advantage. So if you can kind of pace yourself and be able to make these big strikes in the end, where like a lot of things, it's usually a really good thing on your side.
Well, especially in this edition, if everything is less lethal and more survivable, like they're trying to aim for, then you both are going to have more stuff at the end of the game. Like a lot of times in the last edition, it was decided by turn 3. So really having those command points at the end of the game more now.
Okay. With survivability being such a big factor now, with higher toughness and lower AP weapons, they're going to be like anything that can do devastating wounds and command point. Like it's just going to be essential to have those command points to do those abilities.
Absolutely. All right. Then the next one they give us is Prognosticated Arrival. which happens in your movement phase. One Grey
Yeah,
Knight
let's
Psyker
see.
unit from your army arriving from deep strike or teleport can set up anywhere on the battlefield that's more than 3 inches. So this is your 3-inch deep strike, but you can't charge. I believe you had something that
Oh
did this
wow.
in the last book, right?
So they yeah. So not previous edition they had this, and that's really really good.
Yes.
You'll have to watch out a little bit now because people are going to combat armies are probably going to try to heroic intervention you now, since you can do it in any unit, I believe, right?
Well, heroic intervention can only be
You can
done
do it.
on a unit that charged. So there's no more of the shenanigans like I charge on one side of the board
Oh,
and
on
you
a unit
heroic
that
on the
charge.
other. You can only heroic into a unit that charged now. They changed that.
Yeah.
So you drop
Oh,
in,
okay.
they
Well,
can't
never
heroic
mind
this
then.
unit because it didn't
Then
charge.
that is really good though. This ability for one command point, yeah. I mean, I'll probably be doing that 2 to 3 times in the game. Maybe even before game, like turn 2, 3, 4, and 5. Like anytime, people have to really be careful about their spacing against Grey Knights, and with this ability, you have to even be more careful. And you're able to if you're able to shoot those holes out in enemy units, and you deep strike within 3, you can steal objectives. You can get in range to shoot all your shots. Now with characters being only 12-inch out protection, only have